Age wrinkles the body, Lance murmured, his hands gliding over my hips like he was memorizing a map, but quitting desire wrinkles the soul. I should have slapped him for saying something so cliché. Instead, I kissed him like I had forgotten I was alive until that moment. Let me explain. My name is Margaret Ellis. 70 years old, divorced, and until 3 months ago, the human equivalent of dusty curtains. My ex-husband, Harold, left me for his yoga instructor 5 years ago. My children Joe, 45, a lawyer with a savior complex, and Ruth, 43, a perpetually exhausted mother of 3, treated me like a fragile heirloom. Mom, don't overdo it, they had say when I mentioned traveling. Mom, maybe skip wine night. Then I met Lance Carter at the Cedar Hill Art Walk. He was demonstrating charcoal figure sketching, sleeves rolled up to reveal tattoos of birds in flight. I lingered, pretending to admire a landscape. You're staring, he said without looking up. You're arrogant, I fired back. He grinned. And you're the first interesting person here. We talked for hours. He was 42, divorced twice, a recovering addict of bad choices. His art was raw, nudes tangled in storms, faces half erased. He called it beautiful ruin. When he invited me to his studio, I told myself it was just curiosity. Then he pinned me against his drafting table, whispering, "Tell me to stop, Margaret." I did not. The sex was volcanic, not the fumbling I had endured with Harold. Lance worshipped my body, the silver stretch marks, the softness, the scars. You're a masterpiece, he said, and I almost believed him. But later, buttoning my blouse, I noticed a sketchbook. Flipping through, I froze. Dozens of women. All ages, all races, all naked. Clients, he shrugged. They pay to be seen. I stormed out. Yet by morning I had texted him. Again. For weeks, we met in motels, his studio, even my garden shed. I felt seen. Until last Tuesday. I had hidden Lance's note. Meet me. I need you, in my recipe box. But Joe came over to check the gutters and found it. What the hell is this? He hissed, waving the paper like evidence. Ruth arrived minutes later. Mom, are you dating someone? I lifted my chin. It is not a debate, Ruth. It's my life. Joe's face darkened. Is he blackmailing you? Because if some con man thinks I am sleeping with him, I snapped. The silence could have choked the world. Ruth turned gray. Joe lunged for my phone. Give me his name now. I refused. Now, they're camped in my living room, demanding answers. But all I can think about is Lance's mouth on my neck, his promise. This isn't a fling, Maggie. It's a revolution. And the text I just got, I am outside. Run away with me. Joe's grip on my phone turned his knuckles white. Ruth stood frozen by the fireplace, her voice trembling. You are sleeping with him? Mom, he is younger than I am. I crossed my arms, my heart a wild thing. And when did my body become a democracy? Joe threw the phone onto the couch. This isn't a joke. Do you even know this guy? What if he is after your money? The house? Jesus, Mom. He is not Harold, I spat. The room went colder. Ruth sank into the armchair, her face crumpling. Is this because of Dad? Are you punishing us? I almost laughed. They still didn't see it, how their father had hollowed me out, year by year. How I had traded silk negligées for flannel pajamas, how he would roll away from me in bed like I had burned him. The night I caught him packing for his fishing trip, his duffel stuffed with lacy things that wouldn't fit me anymore. I am not a victim, I said quietly. I am alive. For the first time in decades. Joe paced, raking his hands through his hair. You're being reckless. You're 70. And you're a hypocrite, I shot back. You cheated on Lisa 2 years ago. Should I have locked you in a tower? He flinched. Ruth gasped. Good, I thought bitterly. Let them choke on their own secrets. Flashback. 6 weeks earlier. Lance's studio smelled of turpentine and sweat. He had asked to paint me, clothed or not. Your choice. I arrived wearing a crimson dress. Wrong color, he said, smirking. He handed me a robe. This will look better on the floor. I should have left. Instead, I let the fabric pool at my feet. He didn't touch me, not at first. His eyes traced me like a sculptor, murmuring, "Look at you, a goddess who has weathered storms." When he finally kissed me, it was slow, deliberate. His hands cradled my face. "You're in charge here, Maggie. Always." Later, as I dressed, he showed me the painting. My body curved like a question mark, shadows clinging to my thighs. "This is how the world should see you," he said. Unapologetic. I bought the painting. Hid it under my bed. Present day. Ruth stood abruptly. "I am calling Dr. Bailey. Maybe you need a evaluation." My jaw tightened. "Try it, and I will disinherit you both." Joe's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, then stiffened. "Who is Clara Martinez?" My stomach dropped. Lance had muttered that name in his sleep once. His ex, Joe said, reading aloud a text from his investigator. "Filed a restraining order last year. Claims he is manipulative and volatile." "Lies," I snapped, but my pulse spiked. Ruth's eyes narrowed. "You're in over your head, Mom. If you want end this, I will go to the press. A story about a predator preying on seniors could ruin him." "You wouldn't. Watch me." The doorbell rang. Through the frosted glass, I saw Lance's silhouette, lean, impatient, a cigarette glowing in his hand. Joe stormed toward the door. "No." I grabbed his arm. "Please. Let me talk to him." Ruth stepped between us, venomous. "You brought this stranger into our lives. Now we will end him." I did the only thing I could think of. I ran. Out the back door, barefoot, into the rain. Lance's motorcycle roared at the curb. He tossed me a helmet, his eyes blazing. "Hold on tight, Maggie." As we sped away, I pressed my cheek to his back and wondered, am I flying? Or falling? A reporter calls Ruth for comment about Lance. Meanwhile, Clara tracks down Margaret, hissing, "He is using you, just like he used me." Lance's motorcycle tore through the midnight rain, the world blurring into streaks of neon and shadow. I clung to him, my arms locked around his waist, my dress soaked and clinging. I didn't care. For the first time in years, I felt dangerous. He took me to a roadside motel, the kind with flickering vacancy signs and doors that rattled. Room 12 smelled of mildew and cigarette ash. Lance kicked the door shut, pinned me against it, and kissed me like he was starving. "You're crazy, Maggie," he growled, yanking at his leather jacket. Crazy and gorgeous. We didn't sleep. The bed springs screamed. The walls were paper thin, but I didn't mute my moans. Let the whole world hear. Let Ruth and Joe choke on their judgments. I woke to Lance smoking by the window, shirtless, his tattoos glowing in the dawn light. He had sketched me while I slept, a rough drawing of my bare back, captioned, "Queen of Scars." "You're obsessed," I teased, reaching for him. His smile faded. "We need to talk." Before he could continue, a fist pounded on the door. "Lance! Open up, you coward!" A woman's voice, sharp as broken glass. He froze. "Clara." I pulled the sheet around me. "Who is she really?" "My past," he muttered, stubbing out his cigarette. "Stay here." But I followed, peering through the cracked door. Clara was all angles, razor-cut black hair, a sleeveless shirt showing off snake tattoos. She shoved Lance hard. "You think hiding behind Granny's skirts will save you?" She hissed. "You owe me money, you lying prick." Lance grabbed her wrist. "Not here. Not now." Clara's eyes flicked to me. "Oh, this is rich. Does she know about the others? The ones you sweet-talked out of their savings?" My stomach lurched. "What others?" Lance slammed the door in Clara's face. When he turned to me, his face was a mask. "She is a junkie and a liar." But doubt slithered into my chest. Flashback. 2 weeks earlier. Lance had taken me to a dive bar, our fingers tangled under the table. He had been jumpy, scanning the room. "You expecting someone?" I asked. He forced a smile. "Just enjoying the view." A woman approached. "Clara." Lance stiffened. Well, she purred. "Still robbing cradles and graves, huh?" He stood, blocking her from me. "Not here, Clara." She laughed, loud and hollow. "Tell your sugar mama what you did to me. How you ruined me." He threw cash on the table and pulled me outside. "She is nobody," he said, kissing me roughly. Forget her. I should have walked away. Instead, I let him silence me with his hands, his mouth. Present day. Back at the motel, I dressed in silence. Lance watched me, his eyes pleading. Maggie, whatever she said. How many? I interrupted. What? How many women have you used? He lit another cigarette, his hands steady. You're different. Bullshit. He grabbed my shoulders. You think I would risk this? Risk you? I am in love with you, Maggie. The words hit like a drug. I wanted to believe him. Needed to. So I kissed him. Let him push me onto the bed. Let him distract me with his hands, his tongue, his promises. I will fix this, he whispered against my skin. Just trust me. That night, Joe called. I stood outside the motel office, the payphone receiver slick in my hand. Mom, where are you? Joe's voice cracked. We are worried sick. I lied by responding I am fine. Lance has a record. Assault. Fraud. He screwed over half a dozen women. The world tilted. You're lying. Come home. Please. I hung up. Back in room 12, Lance was packing. We need to go. Clara's spreading shit online. Your kids are fueling it. Did you take their money? I asked quietly. He froze. What? The women. Did you con them? He slammed his bag down. You think I am some villain? I love them, but they always want more. More money, more time. More. And me? He cupped my face. You're the only one who ever saw me. Not the artist. Not the fuck-up. I wanted to believe him. We fled before dawn. 3 days later. We holed up in a borrowed cabin in the Catskills. No electricity, just a fireplace and a moth-eaten couch. Lance painted while I read, our silence comfortable. Until the fight. I found Clara's Instagram on his phone, a post tagging our location. Found you. You led her here. I threw the phone at him. He exploded. You think I wanted this? You're just like the rest, paranoid, controlling. Then leave. I screamed. He did. The cabin door banged shut. His truck peeled away. Now, I am alone. No Lance. No phone. Just Clara's voicemail. He is mine again, Maggie. You lose. And the gun in the nightstand drawer. The gun trembled in my hands. Ruth stood in the cabin doorway, her face gaunt under a hooded raincoat, holding up a printed news headline like a weapon. Senior citizen abducted by convict artist. Family begs for safe return. Mom, she whispered. Put that down. Please. I didn't. How did you find me? Joe hired a PI. This place is under Lance's brother's name. She stepped closer, her voice breaking. They are saying he kidnapped you. That he is hurting you. I barked a laugh. And you believed it? You ran away. You left your pills, your phone. I left a note. In the trash. Under coffee grounds. She lunged, grabbing the gun. We wrestled, crashing into the rickety table. The weapon fired, a deafening crack, embedding a bullet into the ceiling. Plaster rained down. We froze, panting. You could have died, Ruth rasped. I would rather die than go back to being nothing, I said. 3 hours later. Joe arrived with 2 cops. I sat on the cabin porch, wrapped in a blanket, while Ruth spun a story about Lance, grooming me. Joe handed the police a file, Lance's mugshot, restraining orders, court records. He is a con artist, Mom, Joe said. He has been sued by 3 women for financial fraud. He targets lonely people. I stared at the documents. A photo of Lance, younger, sneering in a courtroom. State of New York versus Lance Carter. Grand larceny. No, I muttered. He loves me. Joe crouched in front of me. He told Clara the same thing. She maxed out her credit cards for him. He left her homeless. Ruth pressed a tissue into my hand. Come home. We will fix this. But home was a cage. Home was the ghost of Harold's contempt. No, I said. The cops exchanged glances. Ma'am, if you don't cooperate, we will have to charge him with kidnapping. My spine straightened. I am a 70-year-old woman, not a toddler. I went willingly. Joe's jaw twitched. Then you're choosing him over us? The words hung like poison. That night, they let me stay at the cabin, for your safety, with Ruth as my jailer. She slept on the couch, her phone buzzing non-stop with reporters. I crept out at 3 a.m., barefoot, into the woods. The moon lit the path to a crumbling boathouse where Lance and I had kissed just days ago. I ached for him, his laugh, his hands, the way he would whisper, "You're my lightning strike, Maggie." A twig snapped. "Miss me?" I spun. Lance leaned against a pine tree, his cheek bruised, clothes torn. "You came back," I breathed. He pulled me into a crushing embrace. "I couldn't leave you. Not like this." I kissed him, tasting blood and whiskey. "They are lying about you. All of it." He rested his forehead against mine. "Some of it is true. I have made mistakes. But what we have, this is real." I believed him. I had to. "Take me somewhere they will never find us," I said. He smiled. "Already planned it." We drove to a bus station in Albany, Lance's truck rattling. He bought tickets to Montreal. "Fresh start," he said, squeezing my hand. Then Clara appeared. She stepped from a taxi, her eyes wild, a tire iron in her hand. "You think you can steal him from me? Again?" Lance shoved me behind him. "Clara, do not." She swung. The iron grazed his shoulder. He tackled her, both of them thrashing in the gutter. "Run, Maggie!" Lance yelled. I stumbled back, cars honking. Clara broke free, lunging at me. "You stupid old bitch. He will bleed you dry and toss you out." Her fist connected with my jaw. I fell, my vision blurring. Lance dragged her off, shouting, "Get to the bus!" I ran. But the terminal swarmed with cops. Joe stepped forward, tears in his eyes. "Mom, stop!" I turned. Lance was gone. Clara too. The ground swayed. My chest seized, a vice tightening. I gasped, clutching my shirt. Joe caught me as I collapsed. "She is having a heart attack." Someone screamed. The last thing I saw was a flicker of leather, Lance watching from across the street, vanishing into the crowd. The fluorescent lights of the hospital buzzed like angry wasps. My wrists chafed against the cold metal cuffs. A detective with tired eyes flipped through a notepad. "The blood in your shed, Mrs. Ellis. Lance Carter's DNA. Care to explain?" Blood. The word clawed at my memory. Flashback. The night before the runaway. Clara had cornered me in the shed, her eyes feral. "You think you're special? He is using you to pay off my debts." She lunged, a box cutter glinting. We grappled, knocking over paint cans. The blade nicked my arm. I shoved her hard. She hit her head on the workbench, blood seeping into her hair. Lance found us. "She is alive," he said, checking Clara's pulse. "But if we call the cops, they will arrest me. My record. They will think I did this." Panic choked me. "What do we do?" He cleaned the blood, carried Clara to her car. "She will wake up. She always does." Present day. The detective leaned closer. "We found her blood too, Margaret." "Clara's." "Self-defense," I croaked. "She attacked me. And Lance helped hide it." "That makes you an accomplice." The door burst open. Joe marched in, his lawyer voice sharp. "My mother is recovering from a heart attack. Either charge her or leave." The detective left, but not before warning, "This isn't over." Ruth brought me lavender tea, her peace offering. "Clara's awake," she said. "She told the police everything." Relief flooded me. "Where is Lance?" "Jail. Fraud, assault, violating parole." She hesitated. "He asked to see you." Lance sat behind glass, his cocky grin replaced by hollow exhaustion. "Maggie, you look alive." "You look guilty," I said. He pressed a palm to the glass. "Run away with me. Once this blows over." "No." The word tasted like freedom. "I am done falling for pretty lies." His mask cracked. "You were the only real thing I ever had." I stood. "Goodbye, Lance." 1 year later. I paint at dawn now. My garden studio is cluttered with half-finished canvases. Storms, women laughing, skies unafraid to bleed color. Joe visits weekly, bringing his new girlfriend. Ruth's in therapy, mending her marriage. We don't talk about Lance. Sometimes, I miss the chaos. The way he made me feel seen. But I have learned, passion isn't a man. It is the courage to burn on your own. The detective dropped the charges. Clara? She sued Lance. Last I heard, he is working construction, chasing the next lightning strike.
Me?
I am just a woman who chose herself. Thank you for joining Margaret's journey. If her story captivated you, like, share, and subscribe for more gripping tales. Your support helps us bring bold, unflinching narratives to life.